And good morning, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday. Thank you so much for joining us here on our Women in Wellness Wednesday. And with that, let's get to honoring God with our bodies. God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable, so I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over our mouths. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help our hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. And God, please protect our reproductive organs and help us to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet as we walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And with that, that is what we try to say here every morning, you guys. I'm so sorry. I was running a little bit late. It's one of those mornings where I just got a little bit too into researching and lost track of time. I apologize, but I'm here now. So let's get started with our trending topics on X. And so some things I wanted to point out. There are audit flags of 228,000 questionable New York City voter records in Mondani's mayoral win. That's pretty huge. And then we've got Florida, Alabama, and Louisiana launching probes into Fauci after the Senate hearings. Remember, I was saying there could be possible civil situations going on. States could actually come after him. So we'll see what they're doing there. And then Hawley, he's I want to say, I think he's a senator. He calls for AI surveillance pricing a massive scam in the first hearing. And I think it is. And we're going to look a little bit into that. Some people call it surge pricing. Some people refer to it as surveillance pricing, but we will see. So let's get into our first auditing of the mayoral vote. This is going to be interesting. So they flagged 228,000 as suspicious, including non-existent records, disputed Social Security numbers, non-residents, and missing Social Security numbers. Okay. So critics like Joseph Hernandez argue adjustments for valid high-range SSNs and common data issues reduce the total below the margin, while auditor Mike Marley Hornick insists officials cannot confirm the win and federal probes are underway. Mondani took office as mayor January 1st, 2026, with no court overturning the certified results. Interesting. So Rudy Giuliani believes Democrats cheated in the election of Mondani as New York mayor after bombshell audit finds 228,000 fraudulent votes. That's pretty significant. That's not 200. That's over, close to 250,000 votes, just shy. And it says of the 1 million votes cast in the election, 7% were from non-existent records, 6% had fake Social Security numbers, 10% did not live in New York, and 1% had no Social Security number at all. Well, this is what you kind of get when you don't have any voter ID for your elections. And these are one of the few states they don't have voter ID. So this is what could be found. I mean, this is just a cautionary tale. So the vote totals 228,000 votes. Mondani's margin of victory was 570,000 votes. Ooh, wow. That's pretty interesting. So let's check this out.
I saw this article yesterday. Want to get your take on it. Election auditor says 200,000 votes cast in the New York City mayoral election are suspicious. And you can dig into the article here. And they ran an analysis of these votes and found that there were hundreds of thousands that were either deceased, didn't have proper Social Security numbers, or weren't legally registered to vote in New York City, and that with 1.1 million votes going to Mandami, he won by a margin of 200,000. And that's the margin of fraud that this analysis found. Right here, I'm reading directly from the article and from the data. Around 1 million votes cast in the election, 7% of them were from non-existent records, 6% were from a range of Social Security numbers that are not possible, so fake Social Security numbers. 10% do not live in New York and cannot legally vote, and 1% have no Social Security numbers. So, do you think this election was fraudulent?
I don't know. I think the margin was large enough so it didn't have to be. It's a different question than, do I think the Democratic Party cheated in this election? The answer to that is a resounding yes. The Democratic Party has cheated in almost every election since Boss Tweed. And when they don't have to, they do it for practice so that they can do it when they really have to. So the reality is that the Democratic Party in New York could probably be one of the examples, if someone wanted to write a good book about it, as the most crooked enterprise in the history of the United States. It has a history not unlike the mafia. And it worked very closely with the mafia. The head of the Democratic Party in New York for some period of time was the closest friend of the head of the mafia. So we got 170 years of fraud in New York. We've got a judicial system that's a joke. It has very little to do with the fair and equal administration of law. It's either a foreign theory of justice, which isn't justice, more like Russia that Dostoevsky criticized in Crime and Punishment.
Okay, and let's talk about how the mafia still exists and the government has not dismantled that family and how they just let them do whatever they want to, carte blanche. But yeah, like he was saying, we don't know what the fraud is or, that they could be cheating, but that is large. 228,000 votes in question? Yeah. Okay. Next one. So Florida, Alabama, Louisiana launching probes into Fauci after Senate hearing. So Florida attorney James Youthmeyer kicked off an investigation citing Fauci's lack of candor to Congress, with Alabama and Louisiana quickly following to check for state prosecutable offenses. The probes spotlight a February 2020 diary entry where Fauci noted a COVID case fatality rate of 0.2 to 0.3%, contrasting his later public use of higher WHO figures like 3.4%. Critics like Stanford's I'm not even going to mess with that last name, and journalist Matt Taibbi argue this fueled misguided policies, while supporters cite pandemic uncertainties. Senate Republicans plan a contempt vote next week, noting federal pardons don't block state actions, and they don't, because they're two different levels. Just because he was pardoned at the federal level doesn't mean he can't be prosecuted at the state level by different states that come against him. Like I was saying, I was like, yeah, all this is bad. All this is nonsense. If you think, sir, your wonderful pardon going back to 2014 is going to protect you, it is no better than toilet paper right now. Like it is what it is. Whatever happens to you happens. Sad. So remember, they are not defending Fauci for lying. They are defending themselves for lying. Yeah, and a lot of people are going to be trying to protect him. Yeah. So listen to this article. After Fauci debate, our idiot press circles the wagons. I guess it's true. You can't hate the news media enough. It's bad. They have to protect him because they were all in on it. It's very sad. Let's see. The next one, Hawley calls for AI surveillance pricing, a massive scam in first hearing. So during the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee hearing, Hawley highlighted how retailers like Staples, Target, and Lyft use browsing history, locations, and even emotional states to set higher individualized prices. Witnesses and lawmakers like Senator Mike Lee raised alarms about exploitation with one analysis showing households could pay over $1,200 extra yearly on groceries alone. Howley vowed to introduce legislation to stop corporations from weaponizing personal data against everyday consumers amid growing state efforts and bipartisan support for transparency. Because, see, what I like is let the lawsuits begin. Oh my goodness, the damage and the harm that these corporations are doing. So I could get and I'm going to show you guys a video where they show this in real time actually happening. You could have a rate of like $50, but your neighbor might have a rate of 30 or higher, 70. Why is that? If it's the same lift coming to the same same location for the same ride, same distance, everything's the same. But it's a $20 to $30 swing in some cases. Why? Why are you charging somebody more or less? Yeah, but it's happening. So let's we won't listen to all of Holly, but let's just see what he has to say here.
This is one of the biggest scams in American history. This marriage between the AI industry and these mega corporations, and they're trying to pull it off against every American consumer. AI surveillance pricing is the unholy trinity of everything Americans hate: spying on people, ripping them off, and taking away jobs. Let me just talk about each of those briefly in turn. First, spying on people. Did you know that your neighborhood grocery store is amassing your data and tracking your purchases all for their profit? For example, take Kroger. Kroger is not just a grocery store, though it is certainly that, one of the largest. It is a data-selling mega corporation. Kroger's loyalty program has a treasure trove of data on you if you're one of their customers. One Kroger customer got a copy of his shopping profile recently. You want to guess how long it was? 62 pages. 62 pages of personalized data on this one person based on his shopping history. Last year, Kroger earned over $500 million from selling the data that it harvests from its loyal customers and giving it to other corporations. Do you know that accounts for 33?
And a lot of you out there, how dare they sell it illegally? There is a terms and conditions when you sign up for that card. You probably didn't read it. Yeah, the devil's in the details. I'm just saying.
Percent of its net income last year, a third of its income came from selling the personal data of its own customers. Let me just say that again. Kroger made $500 million by tracking its customers in store and online and then selling that to other people. Second, ripping off consumers. You know, AI weaponizes your data against you for profit. And I'll give you an example. On Delta's second quarter 2025 earnings call, Delta's former president, Glenn Hounstein, revealed its partnership, Delta's that is, with an outfit called Fetcher, which is a company that specializes in AI surveillance pricing. Now, after that earnings call, Bloomberg uncovered a Fetcher white paper that describes using AI with airlines to replace simple, flat fares with a complicated pricing scheme that will vary the fare based on what they believe individual customers are willing to pay. Fetcher went on, this company, to say that it's time for the airlines to enter an exploitation phase of AI technology. Think about that. These companies are salivating at the prospect of using AI technology and your personal data to exploit you, and they're not even pretending otherwise. Finally, taking away jobs. You know, this practice of surveillance pricing is making its way to brick and mortar stores. It's not just online. Here's an example of that. Kroger and Walmart and other retailers are rapidly introducing digital shelf labels all across their stores. We'll give you an example over my shoulder here of a picture. Here's a digital shelf label. These are appearing everywhere across the United States. These labels can be used, because they can be changed instantaneously, they can be used to implement AI surveillance pricing in the store, not just online. Now, of course, this will end up costing jobs in the store, certainly. But think about where all of this is heading. Delta's former president, I mentioned a moment ago, really put it best when he said that the goal of the industry The goal of all of these industries, these mega corporations and the AI industry that's working with them, the goal is to charge what they call personalized prices, as if it's a benefit to you. Personalized prices. Here's what he said. This is a full re-engineering of how we price and how we will be pricing in the future. We will have a price that's available on that flight, on that time, to you, the individual. Let me just translate. In other words, they're going to figure out how they can rip you off one person at a time.
Yeah.
They're not going to charge you the same fare they charge your neighbor. They're not going to charge you the same fare as the guy sitting next to you in the seat. They're going to figure out how they can bilk you out of every dime they're willing to pay every time you step on an airline. And it's not just going to be them. It's going to be the grocery stores and everybody else until we figure out how to bring transparency, how to bring honesty, and some protections to the American consumer.
So my suggestion to everybody right now is, if you can drive there, drive. You don't have to shop at Kroger's. You don't have to shop at Walmart. You can shop at other places. You can do the local farmers market, as far as I'm concerned. That's even better for you anyway. They need to fill it. Because when they start feeling money move from their pocketbook, they'll start acting right. But Congress needs to act and make it illegal for all of this to go on. Because obviously, they're doing it, so there's laws to protect them in doing it. So Congress, you're not, how should I say, your hands aren't clean in this situation, even though they're trying to make them look clean. But I do appreciate Senator Hawley bringing it up. Now, I wanted to, like I said, there was a video. I'm not going to play the whole video, but just a clip of it, just to show you in real time how the surveillance pricing is working.
Currently paying different prices for the exact same thing. And this is because of a brand new thing called
surveillance pricing.
Surveillance pricing.
Surveillance pricing.
It's making life more expensive, with some people paying $1,200 more on groceries alone.
This is really across all sectors of American shopping.
I had never heard of this before, but it's like price tags are dead now. And even though 76% of people think it should be illegal, surveillance pricing is being used by more and more companies. And here's how it works. We kind of already know that for decades, corporations have collected our personal data to sell us targeted ads. But now that same data is being used with an AI algorithm to set the maximum possible price they think you'll pay, and a different maximum price they think I'll pay, and a different price for my mom and your mom, and a different price for every mom in America. This goes beyond just moms too, and I'll prove it. We're gonna buy the exact same product from the exact same store. Go to Target and buy Spam.
Okay.
How much is it?
$4.99.
My price is $4.59.
That's bullshit, dude.
We're gonna order the exact same ride.
Okay.
Scheduled for tomorrow at noon.
From where?
Do it from Target Field to the airport.
Here's my prices. $36.94 for the UberX.
Mine's $52.95. That is a 30% difference in price.
And for what? No difference.
Let's book the exact same hotel on the exact same night.
What's the name?
La Quinta Hotel, Denver.
Okay, $122.50.
$122.
Yeah.
My price is $84.
Wow. Wow.
With surveillance pricing or personalized pricing, people are very up in arms about the idea that they might be paying a different price than their neighbor for something.
That's Grace Getty, and she works for Consumer Reports. And with her help, I'm going to put this surveillance pricing system to the ultimate test and go to the most extreme lengths possible to game the system and trick these AI pricing algorithms in order to save as much money as possible. What?
But why should he have to prove? This is disgusting. Kroger selling your information, and then this whole AI surveilling pricing thing. No. See, this is the bad part of AI that everybody warned about. Like, this is not good. This isn't helping anybody. It's helping the people it's helping the corporations. It's not helping the consumer. So now the next thing that I wanted to talk about and get to, now I'm debating whether I should go over this one first, because I was looking at pricing and I don't want to kind of jump back and forth. But let me jump into this other video. And it's something that I noticed, and it's Congress talking about how they're trying to save the consumer, you know, with the different pieces of legislation passed at the federal level, right?
Only 5 legislative days left before the Senate's scheduled August recess. The upper chamber now in a sprint to pass any piece of the president's agenda. Lawmakers telling Maria on this program their priority, passing a continuing resolution ahead of the October 1st deadline. Watch.
The Democrats are going to shut down government October 1. We have to, whether we fund it through reconciliation or through a continuing resolution, remember, everything will get shut down again. This will be the 4th time in 2 years by the Democrats. So we've got to figure out how to fund the government, like just how do we fund ICE and CBP through reconciliation.
So you think we're seeing another government shutdown on the horizon before the midterms then?
Absolutely.
You've got the Clarity Act, you've got the continuing resolution, you've got the NDAA, you've got the Reconciliation 3.0. Are you moving on any of this? You've got 1 week left. What's the priority next week?
Well, I feel like we're trying to put 20 pounds of potatoes in a 10-pound bag, but we need to prioritize, get as much done as we can, starting with the funding of the government. Remember, Chuck Schumer, big government socialists, they've shut the government down 3 times already. So it's time to move that, and hopefully we'll get on these other bills as well.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune releasing the text for a CR to fund the government through December 11th, which does have Democratic support. I want to bring in Nebraska Congressman Michael Flood. He also sits on the House Financial Services Committee. Congressman, so the Senate's proposed CR is different from what the House already passed. In particular, there's this language with regards to grants and the Office of Management and Budget and Russ Vought. And that came from Susan Collins. To be clear, it looks like there's going to be an initial procedural vote tonight on this. Your thoughts?
Well, we have to fund the government. Nobody wins in a shutdown. I mean, Americans lose in a shutdown, and it's hard to come back to Nebraska and look somebody at the VFW in the face and explain to them why they have to wait in a line longer than is acceptable at the airport. I appreciate that John.
Yeah. So I will leave the rest of that video, but I wanted to read Spud's comment. He says, once the community denies access of those flock cameras, these flock camera companies will just enter into contracts with Walmart and supermarkets, or that's who already has the flock cameras. They've had them for a long time. They've already scanned your faces. You've already been in the database. That's why they're able to do a lot of this stuff. Flock has been in existence. This is what cracks me up. But thank you for that comment. Look, they've been doing this for decades. We're just now finding out about it. People are upset about Flock because not only do they take surveillance footage, they actually retain your data. See, before, it's one thing to look at, okay, somebody's doing this, but no, they have once they get your license, they have a whole profile on you. We've all been profiled. What did you really think 2020 was about in the pandemic? Oh, they were super profiling everybody then, and everybody had to be at home, and you had to sign up for these different apps, and you needed all of these different things to work from your house. Does anybody remember those authentic? I'm probably going to say this word wrong. The authentication apps that you had to put on your phone. Remember those? Because if you didn't have it on your phone, you couldn't get into your work computer. Remember that, everybody? We gave them everything. Everything. Sitting back, wondering, why are we here? And well, some of us can work harder. You gave them everything. Okay? We made slavery easy. I'm just letting you know right now. We walked right into it, hook, line, and sinker, and nobody blinked and batted an eye. It's done. We're just now finding out about the repercussions of it. It's already done. The question is, do you go along with the system or do you go against it? It's your choice. You do have free will. I'm just saying. Now, what we're going to look at, and this is something that from that last video that I wanted to just bring up briefly, is that I asked the question, is there a possibility that some states are raising their tax structure to make it look like the government tax cuts are not working or not being applied? And I think both parties kind of do this, but it does say yes. Some states, primarily Democratic-led ones, are adjusting their tax codes in ways that reduce or offset the benefits of recent federal tax cuts for many residents, though the motivations center on revenue protection, progressive taxation goals, and responding to federal spending changes rather than a coordinated effort solely to undermine precipitations of the federal cuts. So they're doing this on purpose. So if you live in a democratically led state and you're like, I don't see any savings, it's because your actual people in your state are making sure you don't. They're doing the political dance. They don't care. And it's really high time that we hold these politicians' feet to the fire and say, you need to do right by the people. Now, am I shouting, hey, we need free stuff? Absolutely not, because that's dumb. Nothing is free. Are you crazy? But what I am saying is people need to feel the benefits. And if your budget is out of whack, and in most of these democratically led states, it is, you need to wrangle in your budget. Okay? And stop oppressing the people with your budget to fund their state government. Companies are leaving states because of the taxes. There's an imbalance. Because, see, when they leave, the jobs leave. Where's the taxes coming from? You can't get it from the company because they left. You can't get it from the average consumer because they don't have a job to pay taxes. So what are you doing? Yeah. Your answer cannot be the federal government take care of me. That's just dumb. Figure it out. But I will leave this link for you guys to review and go over. Now, next video that I wanted to get to is this. I found fascinating. There is a individual in Michigan. He is running for Senate. He is a Muslim by religion, not his ethnicity. It's by his religion. And I wanted you guys to hear what he has to say and what he compares Sharia law to.
I had planned to keep that to be the history that I would cover as we talk about our future. But I was reminded, actually, about events that I remember because I was an adult when they happened. And that was question 755. When the state of Oklahoma voted in a referendum to amend the Constitution to ban Sharia law. What does that mean? I don't know. And yet the voters banned it anyway. What I offer today is just a reflection on the American history that runs through this state. You all sitting in this room, in this town, we're sitting in a space, in a time when I don't have to tell you that the same exact forces that drove native peoples from their land 2 centuries ago, destroyed Black Wall Street a century ago, bombed a building decades ago, and tried to ban Sharia law not a decade ago, that those forces are alive and well today. We see it in conversations across our country. People who fear what offering basic access to the ballot, a democratic tradition in this country, might mean for their sense of power, and so have turned their backs on democracy to begin with. We see it in discussions that tell us that we cannot talk about the history of racism that I just mentioned. We can't mention those things. They're too divisive, let alone the attitudes that created them in the first place. They tell us that we can't look back, we just have to look forward, because they want us to forget everything that came before. It's tempting in a moment like this to believe that the worst is behind us. And look, I want to bring a message of hope, and inshallah I will. But it's tempting to believe that those things are in the past. But they say those who forget their history are doomed to repeat it. Tonight we're here to support an organization dedicated to the civil liberties and civil rights of Muslim Americans. But I want to press you. I want to press us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran Kareem, He tells us, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who believe, kunu qawwamina billah, shuhada'i lil qist, wala yajrimannakum shana'anu qawmin ala alla ta'dilu, i'dilu huwa aqrabu lit taqwa. O you who believe, stand firm with God. Be witnesses to justice. And do not allow the hatred that other people have for you to keep you from doing justice. Do justice. That is closest to consciousness of God. It's easy when we reflect on our own history as a small community brought together across ethnic backgrounds, racial backgrounds, to assume that justice is just us. And the reason I wanted to go all the way back to the 1830s is because you can't understand a Sharia ban without understanding the Trail of Tears. You can't understand the efforts to uproot Muslim Americans without understanding the Tulsa Massacre. You cannot understand the challenges we face today without understanding white supremacy. We have to set it in the context of our history. Now,
Okay. First of all, let's dial all this back. Sir, everything that you mentioned were harms done to people based on their what we call race here in this country. Okay. Right. Yeah. Those people were owned. Okay. There's nothing about Sharia law where people have been physically maimed or owned as property and not considered human. The Tulsa massacre was, yes, a unfortunate dispute, as they like to call it. They used it as a reason to burn down people's wealth and destroy any possibility of them rebuilding that wealth. Is Black Wall Street in Tulsa today? No, it's not. And they made sure they cut it out to the point where there was a woman who lived till she was 109 years old to see justice, and still it didn't happen. And we're still fighting for that. What are you talking about with Sharia law? It runs contrary to the Constitution. That's the problem. That is why it was banned. You are not a race nor ethnicity of people in the Muslim community. Now, there's something else we're going to talk about before we even get into some other things about what's happening in the Muslim community. But I just had to bring that up real quick for you guys.
Native-born American who just wants a fair shot, well, good luck. But if you're part of a politically favored group, suddenly got special commissions, special preferences, special treatment. Take Massachusetts, for example. Senate Democrats there are pushing a bill to form what they're calling a Muslim commission. The goal, to prioritize Muslims for jobs in state government.
We need Muslim voices at every table of government as full participants, shaping decisions that affect their lives.
Passing these, the S2134 and H3351 is a meaningful step forward toward ensuring that Muslims are represented, respected, and included in the life of the Commonwealth.
Okay, I'm from New England, so I can say this. New England liberals, especially female liberals, are the worst. Okay, here to discuss with more, Brett Tolman, former U.S. Attorney and Executive Director for Right on Crime. All right, Brett, I mean, I saw this, I actually thought it was a joke. It can't be true. Tell us, from the legal perspective, how this would pass any type of legal muster.
Not a single court reviewing this could ignore the fact that it's just discrimination. And we've spent decades and so long in the history of this country, Laura, to make sure that we're not discriminating based on religion, based on race, or any other way. So instead, we're going to give benefits and think that that's not discrimination. It's mind-boggling. I share the same sentiment that you do, but I will say, I think this is a warning. I think you remember, Laura, in Game of Thrones when they were testing the wall to see if there were weaknesses. This is the agenda. Test the constitutional republic. See where there are weaknesses, where they can get inroads in to start ushering in laws that are contradictory to our Constitution.
Sharia law.
That one's intense. I was like, what? And so I asked, a very basic question to Grok. I said, recently, Massachusetts proposed a Muslim commission. Is this different from a Christian commission? And does it fall under freedom of religion? It says, no, Massachusetts does not have an equivalent permanent Christian commission. And the proposed Muslim one raises distinct establishment clause concerns under the U.S. and Massachusetts constitutions. So what the proposed bill does, right? Senate Bill 2134 and its companion, House Bill H3351, an act promoting the civil rights and inclusion of American Muslims in the Commonwealth, would create a permanent state commission on the status of people who practice Islam. It consists of 11 members appointed by the governor, attorney general, legislative leaders, secretary of state, and chairs of the Joint Committee on Racial Equity, Civil Rights, and Inclusion. These people aren't a race of people. This is religion. What are you doing? It's crazy. So members must demonstrate commitment to the Muslim American community. Look, Muslims are not a race of people. Muslim is the identifier for people who practice Islam. People who practice Islam are Muslim. People who practice Christianity are Christians. That's all a Muslim is. It's a religious person who practices Islam. That's it. That's it. You're not a race of people. Stop that. So it's serving as a resource liaison or cultural, social, economic, educational, and other issues affecting American Muslims. That is crazy to me. That's like I'm an American Christian. That is literally what they're saying. You're not a race of people. So Massachusetts is already has permanent commissions for certain groups, such as commissions on the status of women and the commission on the status of Latinos and Latinas. That's a gender of people, right? Women. And this is a ethnicity of people, Latinas. Okay. These similarly advise on issues, promote inclusion, and recommend qualified people from these groups for appointments. They are framed around gender or ethnicity, race, rather than religion. This is crazy. It says there is no parallel permanent Christian or Protestant, Catholic, etc. commission with the same structure and duties of recommending Christians for government posts or promoting the full benefit of Christian cultural heritage via a state body. A special commission on combating anti-Semitism exists, right? It is temporary focus on assessing and recommending responses to anti-Semitism, hate crimes, education, safety, allyship, and is not structured as a permanent advocacy recommendation body for Jewish appointments. So they don't necessarily go, okay, we need to get all Jewish people over here. They don't do that. They're just saying, hey, we're noticing that there's hate going on here. We need to address this, right? So critics note I'm not even going to mess with that word, asymmetry. There we go. A religion-specific permanent commission with hiring recommendation power for one faith, while the large Christian majority and other faiths lack an equivalent. Supporters argue it parallels minority civil rights commissions and responds to specific community needs. This is insane. Why is it insane? Because somebody else is trying it, right? Because see, it's already being done. Do we not have the office of religion or office of faith in the White House right now? And people are hired to this based on their religious status. We have it. So this has been in practice. It's happening right now in the White House. See, I'm not going to let people's feet go and just act like it's one particular set of people doing it. Now, in that office, there are people of different ethnicities, but they practice one religion, and they are, there to pray for and give the president spiritual advice and prayer when he needs it. That's what that office is for. He has decided that is something that he wants a part of his cabinet. Will it be dissolved after his presidency? More than likely, yes. It's not permanent. But what they're trying to do in Massachusetts, it's permanent. It's at the state level that nobody asked for. It's not like the governor, right, said, okay, I want this particular commission while I'm in office because I'm a Muslim. And I want Muslims praying for me, and I want them championing things under Islam with the Muslim, people, right? I'm going to call them a people that practice Islam because that's what Muslims are. They're not an ethnicity. But the way they frame themselves, when you say it, they made themselves seem like they're an ethnicity. You're not. You are practicing the religion of Islam. We have to keep this in context. That's all I'm saying. But I'm also saying that we have it in the White House, but it's not a permanent office. There's no permanent offices. You know what? Well, why don't we have permanent Christian office? Because you can't have them. You can't. Now you can have, I guess, what we have here in Georgia to protect religious freedoms. That doesn't just mean Christianity, it's for all faiths, right? There is that. We do have that here in Georgia to make sure that there is religious freedom. So people practicing whatever religion they choose to practice, they have a place to go if things are happening that shouldn't be happening to them, right? Now you're doing it with Christians, and it's I don't want to say it's a slippery slope, but I can see how they're trying this in Massachusetts. But it's the way they're doing it. They're making it look like this is for a race or ethnicity of people. So I said, does the Muslim faith see itself as a religion or as an ethnicity? And Islam is a religion, not an ethnicity. This is how the faith understands itself in its core sources, classical teachings, and the self-described of the vast majority of Muslims. Muslim means one who submits to God, Allah. Okay, which is what I explained to you guys. This is their core view. Now, Muslims come from every major ethnic racial background. Okay, list them all. Ethnicity involves, and this breaks down ethnicities. Now it says modern or political uses. In some contemporary Western or political contexts, Muslim is often treated as a quasi-ethnic or minority identity category for purposes of discrimination statistics, civil rights advocacy, or identity politics. So they're just playing the game, using Muslim as a cover as opposed to actually being in the religion itself and practicing it. Yeah. It's really crazy. So this is a sociological or political framing, not the theological self-understanding of Islam. A limited historical exceptions exist in parts of the former, I'm not even gonna mess with that, where Mussolini was recognized as a nationality. Oh, I'm sorry, Muslimani, that's weird, was recognized as a nationality for South Slavic speaking Muslims, now often identified as Bosniaks. But this was a product of the 20th century state policy rather than Islamic doctrine. So, in short, the Muslim faith sees itself and is defined in its foundational text as a religion and a faith community that deliberately prioritizes belief and piety over ethnicity. So if that is the case, why are you trying to say people are being downtrodden because they're Muslim when they're not? Oh, you're being downtrodden because people are saying you can't wear your hijab at work? But that's my religion. Okay. That can be your religion. But you can't wear your headgear that way. You've got to wear your headgear covered in a different way. Well, you're messing with my religion. Well, then you're going to have to work somewhere else. Now, somebody could see that as, oh, well, you're messing with their religion, am I? Or are they trying to indoctrinate other people? Just saying. It goes both ways. It's really crazy. Now, the last part, and I'm sorry I've gone over so much, you guys. The last story I wanted to cover is Irene Cara. I wanted to highlight her today for our Women and Wellness Wednesday.
This part of the fame story. Irene Cara sang the words, "I'm gonna live forever," and the industry that built her almost made sure the world forgot her instead. Born Irene Cara Escalera in the Bronx in 1959, the youngest of 5 kids to a Puerto Rican factory worker and a Cuban movie theater usher, she was playing piano by ear at 5 and on Broadway by 8. By 1980, she was Coco Hernandez in Fame, singing the title track that hit #1 worldwide. 3 years later, she co-wrote and sang Flashdance, What a Feeling. It won her the Academy Award for Best Original Song, 2 Grammys, and a Golden Globe nomination. For a moment, Irene Cara wasn't just famous, she was untouchable. Then she noticed the royalty checks from her label, Network Records, weren't adding up. In 1985, she sued. According to court records and multiple entertainment outlets, that lawsuit triggered a smear campaign, rumors about drugs, whispers that she was difficult, and a sudden industry-wide freeze on her music and film career. She later said it herself. All of a sudden, I was hearing stories about how difficult I was to work with. It was blown out of proportion. The case dragged on for 8 years. In 1993, a jury finally sided with her, awarding $1.5 million. But by then, Network Records had gone bankrupt. She never saw most of that money, and the damage was already permanent. No label would touch her, no studio would call. An NBC sitcom built around her, simply titled Irene, never even made it to air in 1981. She spent the next 3 decades almost entirely out of the spotlight, not because her talent disappeared, but because she'd asked to be paid for it. Irene Cara died on November 25, 2022, at her home in Florida at 63. Her official cause of death was cardiovascular disease, with diabetes listed as a contributing condition. A private, painful ending, unconnected to the industry battle that had already taken everything else from her. She once reflected that she was grateful to have fulfilled her parents' dreams for her before they passed. No bitterness, just peace. Here's what I want you to sit with. An entire industry decided a woman asking for her own money was more dangerous than the men who stole it. So tell me in the comments, was Irene Cara punished for suing, or was Hollywood just waiting for a reason to push her out? Like this if her voice still gives you chills. Share it with someone who grew up on fame, and follow Black History Unfiltered. Because we don't just remember the hits, we remember what it cost to make them. They don't teach.
Yeah. And it's just so sad because I remember growing up with her. I don't know if anybody remembers Fame and the Leg Warmers. My favorite song in that whole movie was Hot Lunch. That was like the jam at that time. But I just want to thank you guys for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. We'll be back tomorrow with Mighty Men Thursday. So remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.